Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to this third in the second series of 7 British Council Gulf UK Alumni Network webinars. We here at ChangeSchool are pleased and grateful to be delivering 7 webinars to you over the next 7 weeks through the efforts of your British Council hosts. I particularly want to mention Claire Grundy and your Country Alumni Network managers, without whose efforts this would not be happening. We have a lot of people registered for this webinar, as always, from all 6 countries of the GCC, so welcome to you all. As we go through the webinar, you may have questions you want to ask. If you move your mouse at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you will see a Q&A icon. Type your questions in there, and at the end, we will do our best to answer them in the time that we have. We will also look to answer them as we go through the webinar. You will also see there's a chat window. Some people are using it already. We will use that in the webinar as our host wants to make this as interactive as possible. So, let me now introduce you to our webinar host today, Professor Prof Jagpal, known as GUPS. Newly imposed Director of the Aldridge Institute for Entrepreneurship and Enterprise at the University of West England. GUPS was formerly Director of Research, Enterprise and Innovation and Chief Executive of South Bank University Enterprises Limited. His main responsibilities included the strategic and day-to-day operations for London's South Bank University's research and enterprise activities. He was responsible for LSBU receiving the 2016 award for the Entrepreneurial University of the Year by the Times Higher Education. This massive transformation effort was a culmination of a deliberate 2-year strategy focused on launching and embedding a campus-wide culture for enterprise and entrepreneurship at LSBU. GUPS has also served as chair of the Institute for Enterprise Educators UK and a board member of the Association of Research Managers and Administrators. Welcome, GUPS.
Thank you, Neil, and good evening to everyone joining the webinar this evening.
So, GUPS, you are newly moved to UWE. How are you settling into Bristol?
Yeah, so I moved in about the first week of July. So it's a relatively new city for me. I've been living and working in London for the best part of 7 years before moving across to Bristol. And yeah, it's a great city. It's a lot smaller than London. It's more compact, but interestingly, it's got a very diverse population and quite a vibrant enterprise startup scene. So it's a fantastic place to be, actually, at this time in terms of Bristol's development as a kind of an enterprising city. So no, it's good. Settling in, making some new friends, slowly building a new team, getting to know the local cuisine and the places to hang out. So yeah, it's good.
Oh, fantastic. Sounds great fun. Brilliant. Well, GUPS, without further ado, over to you.
Thank you, Neil. Colleagues, just as Neil pointed out, I want to try and make this as interactive as possible. So if there are questions as I'm going through, please use the chat window, drop them in, and Neil will kind of interrupt us. I much prefer to do a kind of a Q&A type approach to stuff rather than just be talking at you for the next hour or so. I thought it'd be just useful to tell you a little bit in terms of my own background career-wise, and I'm not kind of intending to go through this in a great amount of detail because you will have the slides available after the session. But I've been involved in working in higher education for the best part of 12 years now. And my roles are very much focused around enterprise and entrepreneurship, but mainly around how universities build links with industry. And more recently, my roles are very much focused around building and operating enterprise and entrepreneurship centres within universities, and predominantly around London. So, you know, a huge amount of experience around enterprise and entrepreneurship, and a huge passion for looking at the ways that universities support individuals, businesses to develop enterprising skills, but also forming and starting and growing new businesses. So, in my 12 years in the sector, I've probably worked with 7,000 startups, small to medium-sized businesses, helped launch 200-300 new businesses, and set up and established at least 3 new enterprise and innovation departments. The main success, as Neil mentioned earlier, was this award for Entrepreneurial University of the Year. Prior to that, our enterprise learning provision at Southbank was highly commended by the Institute of Enterprise and Entrepreneurs, and we were ranked as an outstanding emerging entrepreneurship centre in 2016 at a global conference for enterprise centres. And last year, I was really pleased with the fact our incubator was ranked 2nd in the UK, 4th in Europe, and 15th globally, having only been in operation for about 3.5 years. So quite a lot of experience there in establishing new enterprise centres, and that's why I'm actually particularly excited in my new role to be looking at how we can take some of that learning from the previous roles and create a new internationally recognised institute coming out of Bristol. So hopefully that just gives you a little bit of background on me. What I really want to look at as part of this session is for us to really explore what we mean by enterprise skills and why they're important in the current climate, in the way that jobs are going, the skills that employers are looking for. So as part of that, I want to explore how enterprising skills can be used to enhance your employability, but also how you can use those skills to address and solve problems, challenges that you may be facing. I think in every role that we work in, there will be problems and challenges that we will come across. And I think having enterprising skills, being aware of enterprising skills, can help you begin to address some of those points. So before we start, what I want you to start to really think about is, what is enterprise? Think about where you've heard that word being used. Think about definitions of enterprise that you may have heard, and just in the chat window, start thinking about and sharing, what is your definition of enterprise? What does that mean for you? Where have you heard that? What does it mean in your work environment, your personal preference, personal opinion of it as well?
Oh, so what do you think, ladies and gentlemen? We're looking at enterprise as well as entrepreneurship. So what does enterprise mean for you? We've got one already, actually. Thank you, Manal. Manal has said business as a start.
Okay.
Yep. Amani as well, a business or a company. Mohammed, a new idea. New idea. What else do we have? An organization. Something that is related to business. That's Ahmad. Alvin it's an organization. Mohammed is startup. Amani investment. Reem risk taking and decision making. Rowan a project. There's all this sorts of project. That's an interesting one, because a project is like a temporary organization. Waleed, a business related. Ania, meeting a consumer need. Look, there's loads going here. Okay. Abdallah, company. Malal, teamwork with new ideas. Ahmed, small company, business oriented. Loads of ideas there, Gups. Let's see. What do you think about those ideas?
Okay, so it's interesting because now, having put that question out there, I think what I would have done is slightly taken a different question, which is what we mean by enterprise skills, because actually everything that's come up there is highly relevant, because we are talking about business, we are talking about new ideas, organizations, risk. I love Reem, the point around risk taking and decision making, and Rowan around a project. And actually, Neil, you described that really well in terms of it's got a start point and an end point, and it's almost time limited in that sense. Teamwork with new ideas, brilliant. That was Manal, I think. So if that's what we mean by enterprise, what is entrepreneurship? Is there a difference? Are they one and the same thing? So I really want to throw that back out there and say, right, if our understanding of enterprise is this notion around team working, problem solving, risk taking. What do we mean by entrepreneurship?
Ah, different, I think. Okay, well, we're straight away in with Hania, the ability to scale a business idea, straight in there. Being innovative, creating something that has value from Davinder. Self-made effort, Rawan, thank you. Balamurugan, starting new business with an idea. Self-made effort, creating an exciting project from scratch. Abandari. So we've got being innovative, we've also got creating something of value. Disruptive innovation is part of it, says Mohammed. Starting a business has come up a couple of times. Armani has come up with that as well. Right, so we've got starting a business, creating value, complex ideas from Rizwan Allah, or doing one's own business, creativity. There's a strong theme here about starting a new business and creating value.
An idea with no support resources. Good. So let's have a look at. So let me just backtrack slightly. In the UK now, this debate around the definitions of enterprise and entrepreneurship has been going on for the best part of around 10 years. And in 2012, we came up with some quite clear guidelines through an organization known as the QAA, which is the Quality Assurance Agency. And we came up with some quite clear definitions of what we mean by the word enterprise and what that applies to, and what we mean by this word entrepreneurship and how that's applied. More recently, January 2018, we've redrafted the guidelines and republished them, and they are freely available. So if you, at the end of this webinar, look on any kind of internet search engine and you type in QAA, Enterprise and Entrepreneurship Education, it's the first hit, and it's a PDF, probably about 25, 30 pages, I think. And it kind of clearly articulates what we mean by the terms enterprise and entrepreneurship. But in summary, all of the suggestions that you've come back with for both areas are in kind of the right area. So enterprise is the generation and application of ideas, and it's particularly around the notion of enterprising skills and attributes. And then the entrepreneurship education is defined as the application of those skills and those behaviors to create value. And that value could be through the formation of a business, it could be a social enterprise, it could be cultural value. But the idea is that you are creating something new that is creating value for other people. So to put it simply, the way I often describe it, enterprise is the skills bit. The entrepreneurship is using those skills to formulate a business proposition of some sort that you then go on to execute, and as some of you pointed out in your responses to the activity, to then scale and grow a business. And we will touch on both of these as we go through this session. So given what we know about this definition of enterprise, I want to open that chat window up again and really talk about what would you define as enterprise skills. So thinking about this definition, when we talk about enterprise, what skills would you say are enterprising?
And we're away straight away. So Albandar is talking about leadership, Mohammed about time management, critical thinking, Albandari, Devinder, driving the ideas, delivering on your beliefs, something leadership there, problem solving. They're going so fast, thinking outside the box, self-management, agility, project management, problem-solving skills, think of a problem, pioneering a solution that adds value. There's that value-adding concept again. Risk-taking, quality management, good communication. These are all different as well, you know. Yeah. Decision-making, teamwork, meeting customer expectations, goals and solutions, Manal, HR matters. That's interesting. Ethical standards. Quite interesting there. Then we've got something very personal around self-belief and risk-taking, evaluation and follow-up from Reem. Going so fast, I can hardly keep up with them. Customer is always right. We had a debate about that last time, actually. Progressive plans and experiments, Rowan. Right. sustainability, and auditing. So there's lots and lots of business skills there, loads of business skills, Gups. Which ones would you say would be the more enterprise ones of those business?
I think there were some around there around kind of risk taking, adding value, understanding oneself and that self-belief, kind of execution of ideas. So I think really what I want us to really look at, you're right in the ones that have been suggested, and I think given the limitations of our time this evening, what I want us to really focus on is 2 or 3 of these as we move through the session. So where we may use some of these enterprising skills, quite often there's a misconception that enterprising skills are for those people that want to start a business. And I think historically, particularly in the UK context, we did spend 5 to 10 years actually saying that enterprising skills are for the minority. They're for the ones that want to use those skills to create a business. And actually what employers are telling us is we want entrepreneurial employees, we want entrepreneurial individuals to join our firms, because we want people that are creative, we want people that can solve problems, we want people that can take risk. So really, I think it's important that we start on the premise that enterprising skills are not just for entrepreneurs. They add value to employers and they're more critical to you as individuals. And I think you will all also appreciate, given where you are in terms of your careers, they're actually in-demand skills that will carry you through life. If you have the ability to deal with change, take risk, be creative and solve problems, whatever your employer throws at you, whatever life throws at you, you have the opportunity and you have the skills to be able to deal and cope with that, regardless of whether it's in an IT sector, a fintech sector, health tech sector, whatever it might be. You can kind of adapt and embed yourself in quite different environments. So therefore, as whether you're an employee or an entrepreneur, it's important to make sure you're developing these skills, you have an appreciation of these skills, and you have an awareness of these skills, because they can enhance your employability and support your career development. If you decide to go down the startup venture route and launch your own business, then they will definitely support the success of that. And interestingly, and a lot of people don't see this, but if within your employed capacity you are asked by your employer to lead or establish a new unit within a project, to run a particular project or initiative, you're in fact working in quite a startup environment. You're being asked to do something new with, someone mentioned this earlier, with limited resources, and you are very much having to operate with the mindset of an entrepreneur, but within an employed capacity. So therefore, it's really important that we have this understanding that these skills are for everyone and not just for entrepreneurs. The difference is that some people will then go on to use those skills to actually launch a business, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you do that immediately after developing the competencies. So you've clearly demonstrated that enterprising skills, there are a lot of them about. We've talked about problem solving, risk taking, resilience, working with limited resources. We haven't got time to explore all of those this evening, but what I want to just talk us through, I've got 3 on here. Depending on time, we'll try and get through all 3, but we'll start off by looking at something called the value proposition. We will look at teamwork, and we will look at creativity, building on some of the work that you did with Sarah in last week's webinar. So the first one I really want to talk about is value proposition. Now, a value proposition, a lot of organizations and companies have this, and you may already have this within your own organizations as well, but it's a clear statement of the tangible results a customer gets from using your product or service. So it may be, if you've got a mobile phone, there'll be a value proposition around the fact that I can use it to communicate. but really that value proposition should be at the heart of your business. However, some organizations really fail in delivering their value proposition because they tend to list features of a product or a service rather than articulating the benefits. So if I just take this mobile phone example, the feature of this phone is that it allows me to talk and communicate. So that's a feature. The benefit of it is that it allows me to keep up to date with my friends, my family. It allows me to know what people are up to. And that's the benefit. I can keep up to date with what my family are doing, what my friends might be doing. And really a poor articulation of a value proposition is where you simply stop at the features as opposed to the benefits. So let's just work through an example. This is a picture of a house that's up for sale in the UK. And here in the UK, we have estate agents who will act on behalf of the seller of the property to show people around and to try and sell their property on their behalf to prospective buyers. So an estate agent showing some buyers around this property would describe it as being a 3-bedroom house with a lounge and this added feature of a conservatory, which is the kind of the white glass bit of the property in the bottom right-hand corner. What that estate agent has done is just listed the benefits: 3 bedrooms, a lounge, and a conservatory. And the buyer is then thinking, okay, what does that actually mean? A good estate agent would look at that property and say it's got 3 bedrooms, a lounge, and it has the added feature of this gorgeous conservatory, which is in a south-facing garden where you can open the double doors and you can enjoy a nice cup of tea while your grandkids are playing outside in the garden. So what they've done is take a feature of the benefit and a feature of the property and turn it into a benefit and painted a picture for the prospective buyer. Now that's a good value proposition. You could take that one further and say it's got 3 bedrooms. I know you only need 2, but that means that when you've got guests over, they have their own bedroom. They don't have to encroach on your living space. And again, what that agent is starting to do is to articulate the benefits of the property rather than just listing the features. So I want you to start thinking about creating a value proposition for your own, we'll come on to your own organization, but initially creating a value proposition for this car. So this is a 4x4. It's a car. You have any other car up there, but what would you put forward as a value proposition for this car, bearing in mind that you could simply just say it's a very big 4x4 car?
So thinking about that, ladies and gentlemen, you might have a feature and then you might have its benefit. So maybe we can get some pairs going. Yeah. So Reem, for example, Reem said it's a family car. Ali said it's a sports car. Could be either, actually.
Yeah.
What's the feature that makes it a family car, and what's the benefit of having a family car? Because family car is like a label.
Yeah.
Right?
There we go.
Right, here we go. So here we go. So Albandere said, well, it's wide enough to have a group trip and enjoy the journey. So comfort. Ali said fast and safe. So would that be to do with its size, I guess, would be the feature? Amani, it is a luxury Range Rover car. You're absolutely right.
House on wheels.
Yeah, so what's the benefit of that? Israel, you can enjoy taking long trips, so maybe you move those two together. The luxury features allow you to enjoy long trips, something like that. Luxury driving, yeah. Can traverse any terrain, so there you go, Olivia. What's the benefit on that then? House on wheels. Okay, like it. That's actually nice because it means you can have your drinks and your coffee here and your food there and it's relaxed. Maybe you've got TV cameras, I don't know. Right, spacious, environmentally friendly. 4 doors and high with good visibility, therefore safe. Nice one, Davinda. Now we're getting there. Reem accommodates 4 or 5 passengers and it fits a car seat and groceries, so it makes your shopping easier, therefore I would guess. Right, so there's lots of stuff like high safety, enjoyment with family, long, comfortable trips with your family. Interesting different people's views on what benefit is. Same car is also very masculine, that makes the journey more memorable, than the destination. Very nice. This car can be used to drive over sand dunes in luxury. That's a big thing. That's a lot of fun doing that. It's a family car and a luxurious car. It's a 2-in-1 car. Oh, very nice. Can chuck the kids in the back. So again, 8 airbags, Armani, so that would be therefore that's the feature. The benefit would be safety, maybe. You can enjoy driving in the sand dunes, definitely. Oh, Mohammed, a head turner on the street that makes you feel that you made a good investment. Oh, emotional benefit. There's loads coming in here. Move with your family with ease and comfort. I'm going to bring this to a close, guys, because we're going to move on.
I think just reflecting on some of the ones that you shared there, Neil. I think some of these were really beginning to really look at that feature and then the benefit, but some of these were still stopping at just listing the feature. It's a big car, or it's a family car, and I'm still left with what does that actually mean for me as the prospective buyer of this? Yeah, it's a family car, which means that you can all travel in comfort together as a family, as opposed to having to take 2 cars, for example. Or it's a family car, which means that you can put in 5 people and still have room for ample amounts of luggage for long trips. So I think we were beginning to get in there to start listing those benefits. So now think about your own company and the people that you work for, or if you're self-employed, your own company, and think about what that value proposition might be for your own organization. How would you sell the product or the service that your company offers to a prospective customer? How would you proposition a potential customer?
So here's the challenge, just as Gups was saying, how can we move from the feature to the benefit? As we said about some of the cars, some were features, but then some started to have benefits attached. They were looking for the feature and the benefit. So let's get that going. So here's one from Albandari. So it's Research Consultation Office. The value proposition is making your life easier and guide you for a successful research.
So that was
That's Albandari.
Yeah, Albandari. So what does that mean for me? Other than does that bring me extra money, better success rate?
See what he comes up with.
So Reem, you've put university lecturer bringing worldwide education experiences to my classroom. So what do the students get from that? What's the benefit to the students? An international experience, a diverse experience, a cultural experience, which means that they are better equipped, more knowledgeable to operate in a global economy, globalized world.
Manal as well. So nice, a mobile dental clinic reaching the elderly. So then the elderly, the benefit for them is they can get to a dentist, for example, whereas before they couldn't. Yep.
So I think these are along the right lines. I still think we need to look at this point around how do you move from that feature to that benefit, and we will in the next few slides.
Here we go. Here's a really good one. Hassan. Feature communicates health information. Benefit, we will save lives through fast information transfer.
Yeah.
Now we're getting there.
Yep. And our boundaries come back as well. You can take.
Yeah. Here we go. After finishing this research project, you make implications that provide you money. So the benefit is you use that research information to do something for you. Yeah. Here we go. Hospital, endoscopic and laparoscopic surgeries, safer, faster recovery, less invasive, less pain.
Perfect. That's it.
Perfect.
So we are moving just listing the features to.
Yeah. Now we're really getting there. A recruitment platform that automates recruitment operations, making hiring fast, easy, and cost effective.
That's where we're on the platform, Mohammed.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Brilliant. Okay, got the idea.
Brilliant. Well done. So, what's the link to this value proposition to you? Well, we talked about the kind of the first three bullets here. My question to you is, if companies have a value proposition, should we as individuals? So if companies are out there promoting themselves and selling their products or services, should you be thinking about having a value proposition for yourself so that you can articulate the features and benefits that you bring to an organization in the same way that a product or service may bring to a customer? And that takes us on to something which is, again, a relatively, I think, a new concept, one that I've certainly only been using over the last kind of 3 to 5 years. So some of the enterprise programs that I now run have a personal branding workshop built into them. And when we talk about this personal branding, what we're talking about is establishing and promoting what you stand for. So in the same way that Range Rover stands for, you know, a rugged luxury 4x4 vehicle that can tackle all terrains, meaning you can have one vehicle that can do anything and everything you need it to. What is your brand, and what are you promoting, and what do you stand up for? And really, that brand should be built on your skills and your experiences. That's what makes you who you are, and that's what your brand should really stand for. But also, effective personal branding will differentiate you from other professionals. If you've got two people applying for a job, both with the same degree at the same level, so both MBA graduates, top of their class, what's going to make one individual stand out from another? And I think personal branding really plays a big part in that, in terms of how you then clearly articulate what it is that you're about and what you stand for and what you value as an individual. So if we begin to compare this notion of a value proposition of personal branding, a poor company stops at just simply listing features. And in a personal brand, someone who's poor at communicating will simply just list skills. In the same way that estate agent was listing the bedrooms, the lounge, the conservatory, and on a personal level, someone will simply say, I'm creative, I'm a risk taker, I'm innovative, I'm a problem solver. In the value proposition for the client, it leaves them to imagine the benefits for themselves. So I'm being shown around this house, and I'm trying to work out what I'm going to be doing with the conservatory, the lounge, how I make use of 3 bedrooms when I only need 2. And on the personal branding side, it's leaving me as the employer to imagine, well, if he's creative, what does that mean for me? If she's a problem solver, what does that mean for me as an organization? So I'm having to make this link myself, as opposed to you doing that for me. So a good salesperson, as we said, articulates the benefits by painting a picture, the conservatory, the tea, nice summer afternoons. And a good communicator will demonstrate where those skills have had an impact. And that's the bit really that we'll focus on in the next few slides, that personal branding. So you've got to think of yourselves as a brand. And the framework I'd like us to look at is, which means that you should always try and finish a sentence when you're looking to build a value proposition or a personal brand with which means that. So the example is, you don't say I'm highly creative. You actually say I am highly creative, which means that I can solve problems and overcoming challenges that I may face. I have demonstrated this by, and illustrate that with an example. If you simply stop at I'm highly creative, we are stopping at the feature. Going on with that, I can solve problems and overcome challenges, you're beginning to say what the benefits of being creative are in the eyes of the people that you are talking to. So, thinking about the enterprising skills we talked about earlier, so we talked about problem solving, risk taking, resilience, creativity. I want you to think about what your personal brand is and what your personal value proposition would be, and how you could use those skills to do that. And really, there are kind of 3 questions that you're asking yourselves. I I can, I have. And so think about that sentence at the bottom of this slide. I'm highly creative. I can solve problems. I have demonstrated this by. So think about what your personal brand, your value proposition would be. So if you were being, you're at an interview tomorrow morning, and your prospective employer, your interviewer says, tell me your value proposition in one sentence in less than 30 seconds. What is it?
So maybe have a write this down for yourselves to begin with, because it's a 3-part sentence. I am something, which means that I can. There's your benefit. I am a feature, which means that I can. There's your benefit. And then there's evidence. There's evidence. So have a think. Maybe write it down, and then if you want to, pop it in the window. So here's an interesting. It says a start with Mohammed saying he's bilingual, therefore he can manage and he has legal knowledge. So all of those things are great. You are bilingual, which means that you can talk to people in other countries. For example, you're talking English to me, Mohammed, right? A lot better than my Arabic, let's be absolutely honest. So you're bilingual. That means you can talk to people in other countries and other cultures. They can understand you. And you've demonstrated this by, or you can work across cultures or across countries.
Yeah, so if Mohammed, if we work on that, I am bilingual, which means that I can help my business operate in territories where they speak language, whether it's Arabic or English, which means I can add value in more than one area of the business, in more than one part of the business, for example.
Then we've got one here from Al Bandari. I can work under pressure. And he's got an example of I managed to plan and execute an event related to my work, and it was a success. So if you can work under pressure, you can manage and plan those events. For example, when I did event, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have the ability to work under pressure, which means I can have more than one strand of activity running at any point in time. It means that I can deal with last minute changes to agendas, to priorities, to events, particularly in the event sector. You'll always be facing challenges at the 11th hour that speaker drops out, food's not the right food. It means that you can deal with pressure and pressurized situations in particular.
But we get some good ones coming up here as well. I'm a strong prospector, which means I can help my business acquire new clients and expand presence in their market.
Brilliant, Mohammed. That's
lovely.
Yeah. And the only thing I would add to that is I have demonstrated this by and given an example of a country, a client that you've secured that has helped that.
Mm. I'm honest and motivate my staff, and therefore I can knit a successful team with the correct attitudes. I have demonstrated that by our organisation winning prizes in education. Here we go. Yeah. Hassan, I'm a fast learner, which means that when I need to learn a new trick, I can master it easily. That's allowing me to be very adaptable to change rapidly.
Yeah.
Nice. I can work under pressure, which means that I can juggle different jobs at the same time. Here we go, similar idea here coming from Ahmed. I've demonstrated this when holding head of department positions and at the same time doing my postgraduate diploma degree.
Excellent.
Yeah, there we go. Fantastic. Some really nice ones coming out now.
Brilliant. And I think really those kinds of statements and multiple kinds of those statements, particularly around the enterprise, whether it's creativity, risk-taking, team-working, problem solving, etc., will really position you and elevate your positions when going for jobs or dealing with promotions, etc., because you can begin to paint a picture in the eyes of your employer on the value that you can bring to the organization, other than, and you'd be very surprised at how many people just simply stop at listing features. I see quite a lot of job applications, and I do quite a lot of recruitment, particularly over the last few weeks because I'm trying to build a new team. And most employers, when they are recruiting, will be looking at reasons to say no actually and not yes. And so if you simply stop at features, it gives a prospective employer a reason to say no, because they have to articulate and formulate a value proposition, a brand for you in their own head. When if you've got people sharing these kinds of statements, you think, yeah, actually this is someone we need within our organization, and I can see how he or she is going to add value to what we're about and what we're trying to achieve. Good.
So I'll just tell you one more last one that's come through and we'll move on. Just nice one from Hassan here. I'm empathetic, which means I can understand my students' expectations well and come up with better teaching methods. I like that one.
Yeah, that's good. That's nice.
As an ex-teacher, I quite like that one.
Good. So value proposition was the first thing. I think the second thing I really want to look at is team working. And I'm going to take a slightly different view to this than what would probably be a traditional approach to talking about team working. And for me, I think team working always starts with you. So with you as an individual. And I had a eureka moment in my own career in 2009 when my line manager at the time shared this book with me, StrengthsFinder 2.0. I think they're onto a later version now, but if you Google it, you'll be able to find the latest version. StrengthsFinder is based on a huge amount of international research. So it's great in the sense that it works across cultural and international boundaries. And what the book focuses on, and kind of the clues in the title really, it has identified globally 35 themes, 35 strengths that are valued by employers, are in demand by employers. And what the book talks through is through each of those 35 themes. And then at the end of the book, you have a small access code that allows you to go online and complete a very short test that helps to identify your top five themes based on the 35 that are in the book. The book itself is a really easy read. It's not difficult. It's not heavy, and I think you can get away. You can get through it within a couple of hours. But the unique thing really is the report that you get having fulfilled the online questionnaire. And what you see on the right of this slide is my top 5 themes. So this is my StrengthsFinder report. And of the 35, it has listed me as being futuristic, responsibility, significance, focus, and strategic. So that's what it's picked up as my kind of top 5 themes. And then the report itself, each of those 5 themes are split into kind of 3 broad areas. One looking at awareness, the second looking at application, and the third area looking at achievement. And over the next few slides, I will just share some of the insights that it comes up with. So I'm going to focus on futuristic, and this is what it kind of details as part of the first section around awareness. And it comes up with a very short theme description. So futuristic are people who are especially talented in the futuristic theme, are inspired by the future and what could be. And they inspire others with their visions of the future. And it's really important because each of the themes, when they are described, talk about the impact on you as an individual and also then the impact on other people. So this is saying that, quite rightly, I am inspired by the future and what could be, but I then also try to bring people along on that journey by talking about how I see the future and what my vision is for the future. It then talks about kind of what makes you stand out and the way you might begin to behave in situations how you are driven, what are the kind of talents and skills and knowledge that you will bring as being futuristic in that sense. The second section then begins to go to look at application. So this then talks about what kind of roles you should think about applying for. What kind of job might you be in? And the first one here for me really is, I couldn't articulate more strongly in terms of where I am, in terms of the jobs and areas of responsibility that I've had. So I do excel in very entrepreneurial and startup situations. So my current role is a team of one. I've got to build a completely new unit from scratch. I've got to raise finance as part of that. I've got to hire 10 people. So it's very much a startup situation. And I'm highly motivated by the fact that I know in a couple of years I will have quite a well-renowned international institute. So that role really plays to my strengths, which is why I enjoy doing it. And then the other real important thing is, if we come down to bullet point 5, where it starts with partner with someone with strong activator talents, the report then talks about how you should begin to interact and engage with people that have different strengths to you, because they can complement and support you with the day-to-day stuff. So in my sense, in my context, I need someone that can bring me back into the here and now, because I tend to live in the future. So I need someone to bring me back to the grounded daily stuff in order to get to the end point. So it begins to look at how you build teams around yourself. And then you begin to kind of look for signs of achievement. And this really is talking about, you'll begin to see how you articulate your strengths and how you begin to show that you have those strengths. So I am typically the one that will sit in meetings and we'll use these phrases such as, did you ever think about, I wonder if we could, I don't believe it can't be done, it's just that nobody's done it, let's look for ways that we can do it. I'm always looking for options. So you begin to get a sense of how you're embedding these skills and how you're using these themes as you go through. Really, I think the thing with StrengthsFinder, like I said, I engaged in this in 2009, and that was the first time, having been working for about 6 years, where someone had actually sat me down and said, we're going to focus on your strengths, not your weaknesses. It was the first time that someone had said to me, let's see what you're good at and how we can put projects, build teams, identify a role that plays to those strengths. And all the research shows that if you're in a role that plays to your strengths, you're far more productive, you're much happier at work, and you deliver exceptional value for your employer. And you will probably know from your own experiences, I certainly do, that actually, I remember a time when someone said to me, actually, Gups, your finance area, your numbers are not probably where they need to be in terms of your financial awareness. So we're going to send you on a finance for non-finance managers training course. And it was the worst 3 days of my life. And 2009 was really the turning point where I started to use StrengthsFinder to really then understand myself better, but then put myself forward for roles that played to those strengths. The other important thing about StrengthsFinder and team working really is that, and the reason why team working is important, is that no one is the full ticket. So it's important that you surround yourself with people that are not the same as you, but are different and can add value. And the way that you can use StrengthsFinder for that is to actually do it as a team. So get people within your team to also look at it, and then look at the top 35 themes and see how many of them have you actually got in your team, and have you got all the bases covered? Where are the gaps? How do you begin to plug those? So is your recruitment strategy to go out and then identify and work with people in those areas that you don't currently have strengths as a team? And that's why for me, actually, the team working actually starts with yourself. You really need to understand yourself and the value that you can add before you can formulate a productive team around you to support whatever project goal it is that you're trying to achieve. So we can't do this activity now, obviously, because you won't have copies of the book. But what I would recommend actually is that you purchase a copy of StrengthsFinder. And like I say, I think it's $10, $15 US dollars. Read it through, gentle, easy read, complete the test and analyze the results. And I think, like myself, I hope you will find examples in your own life, personal and professional, that you'll be able to draw in and say, yeah, I can see where I've been futuristic. I can see where I've been strategic. I think the real benefit and power of the StrengthsFinder will be if you can do it as a team or as an organization and formulate almost like a matrix of the key themes and how they're delivered across your team, but really using it as a way to understand the strengths of the team and where you have those gaps. So please do go out and buy that. The bit I really then just want to kind of finish on is creativity. And I know you did quite a bit around the divergent and convergent thinking with Sarah last week. And I just want to kind of leave you with one technique. And the technique I want to work with and do the activity on is going to be Scamper. And Scamper is a technique that I think is highly relevant, particularly in the generation of ideas. And the reason really for that is, if we look at new innovation that occurs across the globe, a lot of it stems from existing products or services. It's very rare that we get something that's completely new, completely novel. Often what's happening is people are taking existing products or services and making them more efficient. So it's about using a set of questions that you wouldn't typically ask, and you would use those questions to query particular products or services and look at ways that you can modify something that already exists and create additional value that would make that product or service more applicable to a wider pool of individuals. 7 key areas, so and we'll go through a couple of these as some activities. So the S is for substitute. So what could you add? What could you replace it with? The C stands for combine. So what else could you add to a product or a service to make it better? A for adapt. What could you change? M for magnify or modify. P, what else could you do with that product or service that you're not currently doing, putting to other uses? E, eliminate. What could you remove from there to make it more simple for people to reuse? What if you could rearrange it? So that's the R, or reverse it, turning it inside out or upside down, for example. So I want us to have a final activity which looks at how we use Scamper. We'll probably have time to do, I think, one of these, possibly two. So if we take a simple pen, a simple biro pen, what could you substitute that pen with to do and fulfill the same function that a pen fulfills? So that's my question to you. Using the Scamper technique, we've got a pen. So the first question really is, what do you use that pen for? And therefore, what could it be substituted with to fulfill the same function?
So that's interesting. So we're starting with the whole pen before we dive into the questions there, are we, Gabs?
Yeah. So if you've got the pen there, we're looking to substitute it. What other thing could be used to fulfill the same function?
There's a nice apocryphal story about NASA in this one, but we'll come to that in a minute. So what could you use to substitute? For writing, substitute a pencil. As Mohammed said, absolutely. We use for writing, electronic device, typing, feather and ink. Fantastic, Olivia. I've got an image of you in the bank now signing checks with a quill. Was Walula, pencil again, iPad, writing, Manal. So we've got older forms of writing, typing, a phone. So it's just, you don't need any of this sort of implement at all. Computer, voice recognition, all sorts of different tools. We're getting Word on a page, stylus and e-surface, digital board and stylus. Eyeliner, brilliant. Yes. Fantastic.
But that's, I mean, and it's really great because I think all of those answers illustrate what we've all understood is that actually the pen is used as a method to communicate. And it's used as a method to communicate through writing. And typically what people will do is say, well, let's replace it with a pencil.
Yep.
And not go further than that. And actually what Scamper teaches you to do and forces you to do is to look at things, look at it more broadly and say, actually, it's about communicating. So you could use a mobile phone, you could use a computer, but equally, if you really wanted to write, then actually, why couldn't you not use an eyeliner if you didn't have a pen? What could it be substituted with?
There's an apocryphal story, I'm not sure whether it's true or not, I'll probably need to look it up later, where apparently NASA spent hundreds of thousands of dollars making a pen that works in space as part of the space race.
Yeah.
And the Russians just used pencils.
Yes. I think that is actually a true story.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that is very much, someone said chalk and board. Wonderful. I was waiting for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's do, I think we've got time, maybe Neil, just do one more of these.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we definitely have.
Let's just look at the next one, which is combine. So what could you add to the pen to create additional value to a potential user of the pen? What materials could be combined to it, added to it, merged with it, to get additional value?
Which I guess means you need to think about what additional value might be. Yep. Flashlights, you can write in the dark, brilliant. Rubber end that can be used as a stylus. Take a picture instead of writing, James Bond stuff going on here. Pen and fan, yeah, can you imagine that? Camera or watch like the old days. Yes, they did used to have those little watches at the end, didn't they? Torch has come up again. Piece to use for a touch screen. So you've got a combination thing going on, an alarm. Oh, very James Bond, invisible ink for secret messages. Spy pen, pen and printer. The pen is a flash memory. Pen that can record and digitize it. That exists, I think, actually hasn't. There is something there is a pen out there that actually records what you're writing and then plays it back to you. Hand cream. Love it, Armani. Absolutely love it. Stress ball. Camera, voice recorder, translator. Ooh, mace spray for self-protection. Corrector. Loads of different ideas, all some quite closely related to pens, others very broad.
But you can, excuse me, you can begin to see how you can take a simple item, an everyday item like a pen, and using this Scamper technology, so working through all 7 of the elements and asking the questions, you can begin to see how you can take what is an everyday item like a pen and begin to add some additional value and create something that is going to add value to people in a way that they didn't think was possible. And you know, you can use obviously any other item other than a pen, but I think just for the purposes of illustrating, it's a good example. Neil, I think we hand over the slides, don't we?
So we've probably got time for one more before we do it. So, what we'll do is with this last one, do a bit of a summary, and then, ladies and gentlemen, we'll have a little bit of time for questions for Guts as well. So maybe we can do one more.
So let's look at the P in Scamper. What other uses could a pen be put to than what it was originally intended for? So we've said it's used as a communication device, but what else could we use it for?
This is similar to the brick thing that we did last week, ladies and gentlemen. If you remember Sarah and her brick. Pointer for slide presentations, opening a noodles box. Someone's hungry. A pointer. Cricket bails, Devinder, fantastic. Attendance approval. Oh, combine it with a glucometer for a diabetic. That's interesting. to make a hole in anything. Yep. Page holder. Yes, you often do that because it's got the clip on it. Knocking on the door. Drawing. Well, yeah, but that's also writing. But yeah, you're right, Ahmed. That is different.
Open boxes. We all do that.
Open boxes. Measurement tool. If I know this pen is this long, then this room is 5 pens long, 10 pens long.
So
yeah, people did that with feet.
A microphone for karaoke. Scratching.
Brilliant. Scratching. Collar stiffener. Yeah. Yeah.
See,
definitely.
You know, you can see again how you could, for example, it could still be a pen, but a company might take a different value proposition for it and say, you know, this is a pen that also acts as a measuring tool or something to open boxes with, or you can use it as a pointer. So you can begin to see how an organization might use this to position and proposition their product or service in a different way to a different group of customers. So you can use the Scamper technique to create and formulate that value proposition as well.
Indeed, if you think about the fact that, for example, if you see a nurse in a hospital, they've always got pens on them because they're always having to write things down on pieces of paper.
Yeah.
Have they had this medicine, something or other, but they're running around. You have something else that's useful to a nurse, like a bleeper on a pen. So you're thinking from the perspective, as we were doing last week, ladies and gentlemen, thinking from the perspective of the user. And then you start to apply Scamper to all those different ideas. As a thermometer, there you go, Olivia, thank you, and a toy. Brilliant.
Perfect, good. So you will have the slides, so you can kind of work through some of the others. So just a very quick summary, and then we can kind of open it up for some Q&A. So we've had a quick kind of whistle-stop tour of the difference between enterprise and entrepreneurship. And I think really for further guidance on that, please do visit the QAA website. The guidelines are available in, at the moment, English and Mandarin. And I think there are plans to get it translated into Arabic, because I think there is a big push, particularly from the university sector, coming through now in the development of enterprise and entrepreneurship skills in higher education. So please do download that, and it's free to use. It's open source, so you can quote it and reference it in your work. The other point I hope that we've got across is that these enterprising skills are of equal importance to entrepreneurs and to those in employment. So please, for me, if there's one thing you're going away with this evening, is that enterprise is not just for entrepreneurs, and it's of equal value and importance to you as individuals as it is to someone who is looking to start a business. I think the other point really is then utilizing something like the Strengths Finder tool as a way of defining and identifying your enterprising skills and applying them, and really looking for employment opportunities, project opportunities, startup opportunities that are playing to your top 5 themes. But then also using that to identify where you may have gaps in your team and how you can plug those gaps and bringing on people on board that are complementary as opposed to competitive. The worst thing you could do is hire someone that is exactly like you, because before long you'll be competing and vying for the top position, wherever that might be. And actually what you want is people that you can bring with you and you can grow together and grow a project or a business or whatever it is that you're involved in. But also then I think using those enterprising skills, using Strengths Finder to build your personal brand, really begin to understand what it is that what you stand for, what you value, and how you begin to articulate that to people. And then finally, using techniques like Scamper to come up with new concepts. And remember, again, ladies and gentlemen, it's not about coming up with new ideas to launch a business, but it could be new ideas of solving a problem that your business is facing. So these techniques and these skills, as we've said, are of equal importance to you as individuals as they are to your companies, and also to the startups and people launching new ventures. So that was rather short. We've covered, I hope, a lot of useful ground. And I think we have probably got some time for questions.
Just got a few minutes, ladies and gentlemen, if anybody's got any questions. Thank you, Olivia. She's already looking at StrengthsFinder. She's away. Right. Mohammed has said, is capital considered the main challenge that faces entrepreneurship and enterprise?
It depends on kind of what area you're operating in. So if you ask that question in London, and when I was in London, actually capital is not a problem. Huge amount of angel investment, venture creation funds in existence. Most people will complain that it's capital, but actually I think what's lacking is skills. We're lacking the people to do the execution. I genuinely believe that if you have a good idea and you have a good team around you, you will find the money. In an educational context, there is very little money at the moment, particularly in the UK, to support the delivery of enterprise education. It's seen as an add-on. It's not seen as a core part of education, and therefore we don't put enough investment into the delivery, into the design and delivery of enterprise education. And that's actually what my new role is looking at, is how do we change policy to give enterprise skills a greater prominence in all aspects of education.
Thank you. And then there's Devinder's just raised this an excellent webinar, thank you. And there seems to be some overlap with developing leadership skills in these enterprise skills that you brought up.
Yeah, and the interesting thing there is we give different labels to different things. So even within leadership, there will be elements of enterprise built in that, because as a leader, you have to be creative, you have to be able to solve problems and be innovative. So I think we could spend a lot of time debating, well, what is the correct term, what is the correct definition that we should be using. And I think it's more important that you identify things like your top 5 strengths and say that, for me, that those are my leadership qualities, those are my enterprising qualities, and this is how I start using it.
One more that we'll take, which is from Mohammed, and he asked, well, how do you think we can use Scamper on our own selves?
Right. Never done it, Mohammed, and actually I'd be interested to see what you come up with when you do it. Because I think the substitute one could be an interesting one. Substitute yourself with to deliver the same amount of value. But you know, on a serious note, I think looking at things like combine. So if we just reflect back on the conversation we were having on StrengthsFinder, that's where you can actually say, well, I'm combining skill sets to add greater value and to make sure that we're covering all 35 themes. But I'd certainly be interested in seeing how, if you went down that route, I'd be really interested in having a conversation on how it went for you.
Interesting, fascinating. Thank you, Gups. So what I'm going to do now, if I may, is I'm going to tell people about what's coming up next. Okay. So if I can grab the screen from you, sir.
You can. You got it?
I have it. There we go. And there we go. So, ladies and gentlemen, next up, on the 13th of November, some of you may have seen Dame Mary Marsh before. She was part of our March offering. She did a very, very well received and appreciated webinar in March. And as we've been talking about leading teams, as part of what Gups was just talking about, Mary's going to expand on that topic and talk a lot about how to succeed in teams and prepare for leading them. Very much looking forward to that. And if you want to, you can just scan that QR code and that will automatically take you to the registration page. And after that, Dr. Jeff Skinner from London Business School will talk about what to do before you write a business plan. So again, talking about some of the things that Gups was talking about, how do you do that? How do you decide what business that you want to run, and how do you develop those skills? How do you get that capital before you do that business plan? What do you need to do to succeed? It's going to be a very, very interesting webinar. Again, you can just scan that QR code and that will take you straight to the registration page. And of course, that QR code will take you to our webpage where you can see all the webinars and the recordings, both from March and from up till now. And Gups will be there A recording of GUPS will be there from tomorrow in 24 hours time with some of his slides to help you remember and guide you through any questions that you want to see. So I will leave that up. And in the meantime, I'm going to have to bring it to a close here. GUPS, thank you very much for all the time and effort you've put into designing and delivering the webinar. And again, thank you very much to the whole British Council team led by Claire. All the people that you know work on, deliver and make happen all the network events in all the 6 countries of the GCC. These are the people we rely on to make these events happen. And most importantly, as always, ladies and gentlemen, thank you to you for coming to this webinar today. We're grateful you've attended. We hope you've had a fantastic time as we have, and thank you as always for the amount of engagement and the amount of interesting discussions that we have. It makes it fun. It's great stuff. So we're very excited about the another 4 webinars we have coming up. So you can register for them all on our webpage, as you know. And as ever, we'll be pushing out messages through your British Council emails and social media groups, including Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. So keep an eye on all of those channels, and those links will come up there as well. We will be sending you a link to the recording of this webinar. And if again, as ever, I may ask your indulgence that I will also send you an email with a link to a 1-minute survey to give us some feedback on the webinar. Thank you to those people who last week and the week before gave us that feedback. It's always very, very valuable. So it helps us to see how much you've enjoyed it and how we can keep these webinars fresh and enjoyable for you. Thank you very much again, everybody, for attending, and a very good evening to you.
Thank you.